Think about it, COVID has disrupted a lot of our sports plans, including some that athletes had prepared their whole lives for. That's what happened to U.S. figure skater Vincent Zhou at the Beijing Olympics.
I have tested positive for COVID-19, and unfortunately, I will have to withdraw from the individual event starting tomorrow. I've isolated myself so much that the loneliness I felt in the last month or two has been crushing at times. The enormity of the situation, the pain of it all is pretty insane.
But that pain would fuel his determination to make a comeback. And last month, the 21-year-old placed third at the World Championships. Now, he's finished better than third before, but Zhou called it one of his most meaningful performances. He posted on Instagram, quote, "When I made the decision to compete at Worlds, it was due to one thought, and one thought alone, that I didn't want to live the rest of my life with the regret that I didn't at least try," unquote. Vincent Zhou is a two-time Olympian and two-time world medalist, and he joins us now. Mr. Zhou, welcome to the program. Good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Let me start with the World Championships and that third-place finish and how you reflect on that now. You wrote that Instagram post saying you didn't want to live with the regret that you didn't at least try. Now that you have made that try, placed third, how does it feel in retrospect?
This is one of the biggest personal accomplishments of my career. I was struggling very much after the Olympics, both physically and mentally, because the come down of everything, not being able to train properly, and then sort of the mental destruction, if you will, that followed after what happened at the Olympics made it very difficult for me to just get up and get going again. So being able to achieve what I did at Worlds was just like going there was like a blind leap of faith. And as I said in my post, as you just said, I didn't want to live with the regret that I didn't at least try to compete at Worlds. And when you compete without that extra pressure on your shoulders, when you get there and you just feel free and, I got myself here, let's just see what happens. That's like one of the best places to be in.
Talk about that turnaround from the COVID test, and I remember when that story broke and I was like, damn, I felt so, my heart went out because I knew how hard it is to kind of rev yourself up for something like that and then just have to stop all of a sudden. Talk about the process of turning that around and getting ready to go compete at Worlds. What was that like?
Honestly, I almost did not go to compete at Worlds. The day after we were supposed to confirm our flight to France, where Worlds was, my parents were still talking to me about, let's go on vacation next week. And growing up with a very strict skating mom who, never, saying no and giving up was never an option, to hear that was just really jarring. And once that seed of doubt was planted in my head, it was very difficult for me to move past it. So it took every bit of will in my power to pack my bags and step on the plane. And I wasn't even, training well. I wasn't training much at all on the ice leading up to Worlds because I wasn't mentally able to, make myself even go near my skates some days. My mom was very scared that I was on the verge of depression, and I knew that if I had a bad result at Worlds, it could make things much worse. So going there was one of the bravest things I've ever done, and I'm really proud of myself, not just for how Worlds turned out, but for going in the first place.
What made you go? Was it a moment of motivation? Did you just decide to just sort of embrace the suck and go for it anyway, whether it sucked or not? What finally got you there?
Well, I reiterate one more time that it's the singular thought of not wanting to regret not giving it a shot. I've always been the type to, no matter how bad things are looking, just give it one last-ditch effort. And it was no different here. So
I appreciate you leaning in on that point, because I feel like part of the conversation we've had around especially the Olympics is how the hype of the games kind of creates this caricature of athletes like yourself compared to the reality of who you are as a person, dealing with a lot of the same stuff that everybody deals with. Nicolle Schifrin dropped a piece today in the Players Tribune about how she coped with the death of her father in 2020, right up through the Beijing Olympics, and then after that in the World Cup. Here's part of what she wrote in that piece. She wrote, quote, "After Beijing, when I turned things around and ended up winning the World Cup, people would say things to me like, 'Nicolle, now that you're in a much better place,' and I never said it out loud, but I would always think, 'Am I?' We equate winning with being okay and failure with being not okay. The real truth is that I'm neither okay nor not okay. It really depends on the day, and it has almost nothing to do with how fast I came down a mountain." That's from Nicolle Schifrin's piece in the Players Tribune. We will share that out online at NBC Now tonight. But I wonder, based on that piece, how you manage people's perceptions of your athletic performance when you are a three-dimensional person like everyone else, dealing with what everyone else is dealing with.
Well, that's a really great piece of insight from Nicolle, and it's very true that when you go from what you typically see from athletes on television, the couple minutes you have under the spotlight, to what you see in daily training or what you see in the locker room, it's completely different. I think that what you see in competition is just the tip of the iceberg, and also the way we perceive competition results, the way the public perceives competition results is that competition results are everything. They don't really care about the training or, the long process leading up to a competition. But we spend, hours, days, weeks, months, years training for a competition. In the case of the Olympics, we spend our entire life training for a 3 or 4 minute program on the ice, and that 3 or 4 minutes is all that people see. So it's definitely it's easy to judge, to make quick judgments about the very short period of time that they see us on screen. But athletes, like you said, are humans. We, live our day-to-day lives working hard and going through the same struggles that everyone else does, and we aren't defined by our results. And I refuse to be defined by, testing positive for COVID at the Olympics. I made the best of my situation. I moved forward, and I was able to come out with a medal from Worlds.
I know there's a lot of critique about the hype around the Olympics, which our parent company is very much involved in, but I also appreciate you being willing to talk about the flip side of this, Nicolle Schifrin talking about the flip side of this, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Vincent Zhou, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.